Listen, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but yes, there was a time I was making $250,000 a year and I wasn't happy.
Now, most people probably wouldn't relate or understand that, but if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, you might relate. It was definitely an interesting time in my life that led me to discovering something that completely transformed my life. In this video, I want to share what it was I actually discovered and also what were the 3 biggest lessons that I learned. You ready? Let's go. So at this point in my career, I'm about 3 years of being a business owner. I left a previous brokerage firm, co-founded my own investment wealth management firm, and I'm making about $250,000, I think just over $250,000 a year, living in Southern Illinois, where most of my friends, most people I knew at that point in time were making between $50,000 to $100,000. So my wife and I, we're making more money than ever imagined. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just giving you some context because for me, it was weird. I'm making all this money, and at that point in time in my life, I didn't have anybody else to really talk to. My dad topped off making 40 something thousand dollars a year. That was his last year, his highest salary ever. I wasn't a part of any mastermind groups, definitely didn't have any coaches, didn't really have any mentors. All I knew is I was making a lot of money. We had the dream house, we had the dream cars, we were taking the dream vacation, but there was something that was missing and I just didn't quite understand what it was. And it's a weird place to be making a lot of money and still feeling unfulfilled. You don't go to your friends, you don't go to your neighbors that are making $50,000, $60,000 a year and be like, man, I'm making 4 to 5 times more than you, and yet I'm just not happy. I'm just not happy. It's just a weird conversation to have, so I didn't have it. And it was truly by divine intervention, God putting somebody in my life completely random, one of these totally random calls that opened up the possibility about me hiring a business coach, hiring a business mentor. And at that point in my life, I had never considered it, but I was just at this place where I'm I need something. I don't know what it is. I just need something. And this business coach, it wasn't cheap. It was almost $10,000. Even though we were making a lot of money, for me to drop $10K on something that's not a physical product. This was not something that was going to be shipped to me, something you had to plug in or install batteries. This was a coaching program that was supposed to just give me some good motivation, inspiration. And at that point in time, I had all the motivation. The motivation had led me to the success I already had. So that's why I was so skeptical on, is this really something that I even need? And I wrestled with it. My wife and I, we talked about it. And all I knew was that I was chasing something. I just didn't know what it was. So I dropped $10,000 on this coach. And let me tell you, it was one of those things in my life that completely changed my business. It changed how I approach life. It completely transformed me. And to give you a sense of the success I had after hiring this coach, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward 3 years later, my revenue almost tripled. So imagine going from $250,000 a year to $750,000 in 3 years. But once again, it wasn't about the money because we were already making more money than we needed. So yeah, the money was great, but that wasn't the main thing that I was most excited about. What I was most excited about was I was enjoying what I was doing. I actually had purpose. I had a passion. Basically, it just felt like I was on fire again. See, prior to working with this coach, I wasn't even setting my alarm. I was literally just rolling out of bed, going to the office. My wife jumping in the shower was my alarm clock. That's how unmotivated I was. But after all this happened, I began taking part what I called the Miracle Morning. It was a book by Hal Elrod. He called it the Miracle Morning. So I started waking up at 6 o'clock and then 5 o'clock in the morning because I was so excited to start my day. I was taking more time off, more time out of the office than ever before. Prior to going through this whole transformation, I had came to the conclusion, I'm the one that worked hard. Therefore, I just need to work harder. Therefore, I need to have my hands and basically have control in everything. I don't think I thought I was a micromanager, but looking back, I was 100% a micromanager. And I just remember going on our first family vacation with our kids. I remember this is back in the BlackBerry days. And I remember having my BlackBerry, oh gosh, I feel so old saying that, on the beach, checking my email, making sure that none of my clients didn't need me while I was gone. Even though I had an assistant back at the office, I could have taken care of everything. Oh, no. I was the important one. I need to make sure that I was staying in touch with my clients while I'm on my family vacation. It was just completely absurd. It's just thinking back that seeing my revenue triple, taking more time off than I ever had. So now I'm making more, working less. And on top of that, the work that I'm doing, I'm actually excited about. It was one of those transformations that I'm just so excited to share because it had such an impact on my life. And I hope that some of the biggest lessons, biggest takeaways that I've learned can also impact yours. And that's why I'm doing this video. The first biggest lesson that I learned was understanding how I'm wired. And there are a lot of different personality tests that you can take out there. The one that I took was called the Kolbe Index. And with the Kolbe, when I took this test, it kind of revealed some of the things I already knew, but it's just funny, like, even though you already kind of know yourself, and my wife definitely was like, oh yeah, I could have told you that. Like she already knew this, but it was so helpful for just this third party to kind of reveal exactly who I am and how I'm wired. Without getting in too much of the Kolbe Index, I mean, two of the things that I learned was I'm a very high quick start, which basically means I have a lot of big ideas, and also I have a low follow through, which basically means that I have a lot of ideas. I just don't like to actually do them or finish them. And if you hear that, you're probably wondering like, well, how in the world were you actually successful? Because if you have all these ideas and you never actually get them done, then how did you actually have success? That's because in a lot of those cases, even though I didn't like to do it, I still did it. And that was one of those things where I just didn't feel fulfillment because I'm doing all this crap work because I have to do it. And when I finally figured out or learned that I'm a low follow through, but I have a lot of good ideas, all that basically means that I needed to find somebody, I need to hire somebody, delegate to somebody else that has a high follow through, that they can take all my ideas and actually put them into action. And it's so funny because looking back, like, how in the world was that such a light bulb moment? But it just was, because I recognized like, oh my gosh, I have all these ideas. The thing I also learned about myself was that since I am a quick start and I have a lot of ideas, that means I've got a lot of ideas and I think that I can do them all. It's like, oh no, you can't do them all. So you got to pick what are the ones that actually you need to focus on, and everything else is just a distraction. Big takeaway number 2 is when I was introduced to the concept of unique ability. And basically what your unique ability is what is your passion? What is something that is your purpose? And also you get paid very well to do it. So if you think about the Kolbe, so I'm understanding how I'm wired, this also applies to your unique ability. What are the things that you do that are life-giving? What are those things that you do in your business that when you do it, it doesn't feel like work? It's one of those things where you could do it all day long and you actually have just as much energy, if not more, at the end of the day. And essentially, your goal as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, is that you want to stay in your realm of your unique ability as often as much as you can, because you want to do what you love to do and you're getting paid very well to do it. But to do that, first, you need to have a good understanding of what your unique ability even is. And then 2, you need to protect your time, protect yourself from being distracted or being bogged down by all the other tasks, all the other activities that are not a part of your unique ability. And as a business owner, this is really difficult, especially if you fall into that lie that you're the only one that can get it done. And when you apply that to every single task in your business, there's only so many hours in the day. So if you're spending time setting appointments, following up with client calls, invoicing, billing, marketing, human resources, insurance, building processes and systems, I mean, the list goes on and on. And if you think that you can actually do them all and still have a successful business, you're lying to yourself. And I guess that's not entirely true, because you can do all those things and you could get to a point where you're making 6 figures a year. I mean, that's what I did. But if you actually want to grow and expand your revenue, and even more importantly, work less, you got to give some of that stuff up. And one of the ways you have to do that is you have to identify what are all the things that you're doing each and every day that are not a part of your unique ability. And one of the easiest tests that you can take to help you figure this out is that whenever you're getting ready to start something, and I know for me, like, this is the exact response that I have every single time that I'm getting ready to start something that is not a part of my unique ability. It goes like this. crap, I don't want to do this. I mean, it's something like that, right? It's like this deep sigh, this deep like, oh God, I do not want to do this. So if you find yourself saying something like that before you're getting ready to start to do something that's a part of your business, that is a huge red flag of like, yep, that ain't your unique ability. So your job as the entrepreneur is to start to identify what those things are and then figure out, is there anyone on your team, anyone that you can hire, whether it's a full-time assistant or a part-time assistant, it could be a virtual assistant. Start logging what are all these things that you are doing, and then start recognizing, are these things that I can take off of my plate and start having other team members do them. And at the beginning, like there were so many things I identified, and one of the ones that was one of those like kind of no-brainers that I just didn't see was that I realized after starting to write down all the things I'm doing in my business, I recognized I was the one that was actually setting appointments with my clients, whether I would make the outgoing calls or they would call in. And finally, I'm just like, wait a second, why am I doing this? Why am I the one? I have an assistant, I have a secretary that she can actually set this up. I don't need to do this. And that was just like one small example of one task that freed up probably 10, 15 minutes a day. Multiply that by 52 weeks. That's that much more time that I have back in my business and also my life to do the things that I actually enjoy doing. And the third thing that I learned, and something that I still use to this day, was rewiring how I set goals. Because prior to working with this coach, I used to set my yearly goals. I would do it usually near the end of December, and then I would even look at my goals until the following year. Which, when you're looking back, it's like your goals need to be in front of you. You need to be reminded of what you actually are working on. But it's not just as simple as setting a 1-year goal. What I end up learning and still apply to this day is a framework where I'm looking at lifetime goals, 3-year goals, 1-year goals, 90-day goals, 1-month goals, 1-week goals, and then what am I working on each day? And then every 90 days, every quarter, every 3 months, I'm then reviewing those goals to make sure that I'm actually in line of what I want to do. Because what I also learned during this process was, prior to working with this coach, like I would just set goals for the sake of setting goals. But if those goals didn't align with what I wanted my life to be like, if they didn't align with my family goals and my personal goals, then making $1 million, $10 million didn't matter if I wasn't taking time to spend time with my family, with my kids, for myself, taking care of my health. So by completely rewiring how I go about my goal setting, it just completely shifted my mindset. And the other thing about goals was that it wasn't so much measuring forward. So instead of like, okay, I've got these revenue goals I'm trying to hit, one of the things I never did prior to this was actually reflect and look back at the progress that I've made. Because let's say, for example, that you're making $200,000 a year and you set a revenue goal where you want to get to 300 by the following year. A year comes up and now you're reflecting on your goal and you only made $275,000. You missed that $300,000 goal that you wrote down. A lot of people would be very frustrated, like, oh my gosh, I didn't hit it. Oh, I'm so angry. But if you actually look at the progress, like you started at 200 and yes, you had a goal at 300, but you got to 275. Like you increased your revenue by $75,000. Like that is a huge win. But the way that I would structure my goals in the past, I would have felt like I failed. But since my goals weren't just revenue based, I was able to look at different areas of my life and see the other goals that I made where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I only made an extra $75,000 more this year. But look, I took 4 family vacations. I'm no longer working Thursdays in the office. My wife and I celebrated an amazing anniversary trip in Cancun, like whatever that is. So when you start looking at all your goals as a bigger picture versus just stuck in this vacuum, it just makes it that much more fun and that much more enjoyable. And that's just 3 of the biggest takeaways that I had. There are so many more. But when I think about some of the biggest mind shift changes that I had to implement in my life that allowed me to have the growth that I had, like those are the ones that come top of mind. And if you're a business owner and you find yourself in that $100,000 to $200,000, maybe $300,000 range where you've achieved some success and you're like, man, I would love to 2x that, 3x that, 10x that. But I also recognize like I don't want to work more than I'm working because I'm already working a lot. If you actually want to make more and find a way to have some balance in your life where you're working even less than what it took to grow your business where you're currently currently at. I want to encourage you to check out a link in the description because I have a tool, I have a resource that can help bring clarity to where you're at in your life, no matter what you are trying to do, no matter what you're trying to accomplish. It's a free resource. It's actually just a one-page PDF, but there's also a complimentary video that actually walks you through how to use it. And this is a tool that you can use for any major decision that you're getting ready to face, whether with your business, with your personal life, with your family. It's something that I use in all facets of my life, and I know it's going to provide value to you. All right, y'all, if you found this video helpful, do me a favor, please like, subscribe. Until next time, peace.